Hi, I'm Nathan. I go by Peteparker, and every week I do comic book reviews because that's the rule around my house. If I want to keep buying comic books, I have to review them online. You'll have to forgive this week. It's really hot in my garage, so I have a fan running. If you don't like it, please complain, and I will fix it next week. But this week it's like 100 degrees in here. I'm dying. So this review is going to be for American Vampire Survival of the Fittest #1. Dun dun dun, a Vertigo book. I haven't reviewed a lot of those lately. This is written by Scott Snyder, and the art's done by Sean Murphy. So I've heard a lot about this American Vampire series, it being so great over such a long time, that I thought this new start of a new series would be just a wonderful place for me to jump on and experience everything that everybody's talked about being so good. Now, I don't know how this art or writing is different from the rest, so you'll have to forgive me if I'm judging the entire series based on this one issue, but let's get into it. So this story is generally about a girl who grew up as a vampire hunter, more or less. Her mom joined when she was very young, and she was inundated with this whole vampire hunting and killing skills and abilities, and she explains all that and explains that she has some vampire blood or abilities in her, so she can smell them or detect them or hunt them better than a lot of other people. So you get a little bit of how this whole association works and their secret underground hideout, or one of them, that's under the Natural History Museum in New York, so that's cool. Apparently this is all taking place back in 1941, so that's cool too. And in the very beginning of the story, she goes to a newspaper editor or chief, whatever, and tells him that his whole newspaper is kind of full of vampires who are bending the stories and twisting the news to go the way they want it to go. And she warns him that she's going to take him out one way or the other, but they'd like to have his help to do that. And he doesn't believe her, of course, so she has to make him believe her by killing a guy that he calls in there who happens to be a vampire, because she knows that. So that's all really cool. And then she goes back to the base pretty much and talks about, I'm going on vacation, don't talk to me, sabbatical is what she calls it. Don't talk to me, I'm done, that was my last job, I'm ready to go. And then the guy, her head boss or whatever, supervisor, is saying, okay, we're going to just do this little thing over in Europe real quick while you're gone. Oh, and your old partner's downstairs feeding his vampire-ish son, which is probably all a continuation from the story before. And she's all surprised that her old partner Cash is around. And then her boss leads into this big story about probably a guy in Europe has found the cure for vampirism, and they're going to go investigate it, more or less. And so that's got her hooked, and then of course her partner says, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go look for the cure because his son is half vampire or whatever. So what did I think? Right? The art is incredible. It is really good throughout the whole thing. There's a very limited color palette, as you can see here. Lots of browns and yellows and blacks. But the sketchiness, the crots hatching in a lot of people's faces that makes them like worn and real is really great. Oh man, some of the art in people's hair is just really great too. It's a weird thing to notice, but it's true. And then that whole scene where she defends the newspaper chief against the vampire that they've called in there and kills him with wooden bullets. That's all awesome too. So it's really great art. Again, I have this issue with first issues that they have a lot to say about how they're setting up the rest of the series and how things are starting, right? So a lot of times nothing really huge happens there, and maybe that's just because I haven't been reading this series before, so I don't know how huge it is for her partner to come back and for her to take time off and then decide to actually work during her time off. Maybe that's a huge thing. You do get an awesome picture here too of a Nazi vampire guy, and I believe that's her and her partner here. So they're probably going to go over to Europe and kill some Nazi soldier vampires. So that's pretty cool, probably, right? So overall, I like the series a lot. I like the art a lot. The story, there's nothing really hooking me yet. It seems like just another vampire hunter killer story so far. Not a lot has changed. It reminds me a lot of some Blade stories I've read, or some BRPD or Hellboy stories that I've read. But maybe it's the time period. Maybe it's, Nazis again. They're everywhere. They're always bad guys, which they probably are. But so anyway, it's good. The art is great. The story's okay. So what do you give it in those cases, right? I'm going to say that the art's not spectacular. It's good, it's great, but it's not spectacular. So let's give it a 3 out of 5 this time. I imagine it'll be much better when the action is going on more and when there's more integration of the action into the story. But for this one, kind of slow start, kind of a lot of dialogue, a lot of background. 3 out of 5. So that's it, American Vampire #1, Survival of the Fittest. 3 out of 5. So take a look at my other reviews on YouTube as Spidey207, or on iFanboy, or Comic Vine, or the Marvel and DC databases. All 3 of those under Peteparker. That's where you'll find these. So thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you later.